sometimes the finest of machines, the fastest of designs, the craftsmanship of generations, just isn't good enough. Sometimes you need to think outside the realm of what's been done to prove just because no one has had the guts to do it is different than the impossible. Sometimes you just need to be a little bit crazy with the desire to take a piece of art and tear it apart.
Growing up in my time, which was the early 2000s, I would say that manual cars were, everybody wanted a manual car. You had the E46 M3, the Ferrari 360, the Lamborghini Gallardo. The 430 was coming out, in 2005, 2006. And I actually purchased a 360 at the time for my rental business that I had started here in San Antonio. And it was a F1 paddle shift. So the car was cool, yeah, always wanted more. And I loved the 430. So you couldn't obtain a factory manual 430 at the time unless you paid premium. That's when the prices started going up. So I started looking at some diagrams and having a little bit of technical background and doing oil changes on Volkswagen Jettas. I figured that maybe I can build an F430. So went ahead, ordered the parts. Ferrari said you couldn't do it. Started getting into it. Little did I know, drive out of the garage with a manual 430. So that was a success. That was a hit. I listed the car up for sale at the time, and my intention was I wanted, obviously, something bigger and better. And at that time, it was kind of like owning a 3 Series, like a 330 versus an M3, right? There's always something bigger and better. And that was the 430 Scuderia. That never came in a manual, right? So how epic would it be if you can take a street legal race car with a flappy paddle and make it a manual? Coolest thing ever, right? So I went ahead and sold the 430 at the time with the intention of purchasing a 430 Scuderia to manual swap. And I had no idea what I was getting into. Obviously, the electronics and stuff were different. So the 430 ended up selling, and I had no idea that that car went to Italy overseas to MAT, and it was torn down and it was turned into the new version of the Lancia Stratos, which you see all over the internet today. I had no idea that was the car until I actually saw the photos from the Geneva Auto Show, and somebody posted a picture from the driver's side, and it had the stick shift in it, and I was looking at it, and I was like, holy shit, that is my car. And I had no idea at the time, right? So I reached out to a couple people that were at the Geneva Auto Show and, some of the guys in the US, and verified the VIN number, and that was the 430 that we had converted became the Lancia Stratos. That's kind of cool. And it's one of 5 manual Stratos that's on the market at the moment, or that was built. But moving on into the purchasing the Scuderia and getting it to the shop, completely different animal. I had no idea what I was getting into. No idea. I mean, plasma ignition system, brand new ABS module. So it was the Bosch 8.0 versus the 5.7. Just different coding. I had no idea. No idea. But why not try it? We're not scared, So we're getting into this build, and do we change the wiring harness? Do we, pull the transmission out? Do we pull the motor out? Nobody knows what's going on. And the car never came in a manual, so you have no reference point. Ferrari is not giving you any details or assistance. There's not a PDF file you can download off the internet, unfortunately. You start programming the computers, changing wires, and all of a sudden, you got to start the car, and you just have smoke and flames coming out of the engine compartment.
Still smoking. Fuck. The coil just fucking exploded.
It's like, what the hell is going on? So finally, we figure this thing out. all the original Scuderia parts. So we built a real Scuderia, right? But the problem is the goddamn electronics don't work. No check engine lights, only ABS. We gotta realign the steering angle sensor. So we're kind of scratching our heads, trying to figure things out. You know, we're going through everything and reaching out to everybody on the planet that has worked with Bosch electronics and computers and ECUs, and just kind of everybody's doing this. Like, why'd you even do this? What's the point? Well, the point is to make something cool and make a driver's car, you know, and the Scuderia was kind of the thing. It never came in a manual. So why not? Just get Art, that's an idiot, and spend a little bit of money, and here you go. It was right in the gear. Hey, it's not like the base 430 where we had issues with the gearing. This is actually smooth. Right in the gear, every single gear. And they said it couldn't be done. The car is mechanically running. It's functional. It works. You know, we took it out on a test drive. I mean, absolutely the most epic Ferrari in a manual that, I mean, you can drive, right? So Barrett-Jackson was coming up, and unfortunately we didn't have the electronics figured out at the time, and we sent the car off that way. Little did we know, you know, obviously nobody really bid on the car, and we ended up saving the car and bringing it back. We got the car back, and it was actually an opportunity in disguise. We reached out to a couple YouTubers, and they thought it was pretty cool. Dan, normal guy, SUPERCAR, he has a YouTube channel. He was the first guy to come and drive it.
Oh my God, that was, I have to say, my expectations were like, here, you know, I was like, okay, it's gonna be cool, but it's not gonna be that cool, right?
It's just the manual,
It's just the manual, right? Yeah. It's ridiculous. It is so fun. Oh my God. I mean, you would never know that it was not meant this way from the factory.
Right.
Like, so there's no question about the quality of the work. The clutch pedal feels great. You get used to it. You know, it's a really short throw, which is actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then the gating, I'm screwing up just because I've never driven a gated. That has nothing to do with the gating. That's just me because I suck. But it was, you would never know. It's just unbelievable. It is so fun. It is a perfect street awesome car.
I mean, he thought it was great, and from that video on, we had John Hammer look at the car, and you know, we were at Circuit of the Americas.
This brings back some memories. I had a chance a few years ago, back when the company I was working for, we had an exotic experience and got some laps in a 430 Scuderia, but it was a paddle shift. There's one thing different on this car. It's a manual. This is really unique. This is the only one in existence. Obviously, it's been custom designed, custom built to make it work. And wow, what a great story. I'm loving this thing. The car itself is fantastic, but the simple fact that it's got the manual gearbox on it is great. The you know, the pedals are all there. It's, you know, pedal box from a standard 430. This is great. God, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm dying to drive this thing. I really wish I could get it out there. I mean, we're here at Circuit of the Americas. I can't get on track in it. It's killing me. But it's great to just be in such a really unique car. This is something that, you know, car guys all over the planet understand this, right? People would look at this and maybe they wouldn't even notice what makes this car different and unique, but when you see this right here, it's like the whole Save the Manuals campaign, right? Those guys are great. It's for real. You know, you can't lose sight of the fact that while, yes, I get it, a paddle shifter is faster. It is. I mean, the computer's quicker than we are. The truth of the matter is, there is nothing more satisfying than a proper heel-toe downshift through a Ferrari gated shifter. Oh my God, it's good, it's so good. I'm jealous, this is a neat car.
Randy Post drove the car around the Circuit of the Americas. He actually called it a sweetheart of a car, which was, I mean, that was a nice compliment.
I just got out of working 430 Scuderia, which is an incredibly unique Ferrari that has a manual transmission that never came this way. And it's a cool experience because the transmission much more about the driver. And man, I enjoyed it. It's a Ferrari gated shifter. It looks right. It feels right. You have to be that little bit extra careful. In the classic Ferrari style. It reminds me of the great Ferraris we've seen since time began. And it's a cool package. It's all about the driver and the driving experience. Very, very unique. As I understand, the only one in the world. And it works. It's fantastic. I love it.
Matt Farah came out, gave us his thoughts on the car. He drove it.
How was it?
That was rad. Yeah, this thing rules. These 430s, all the 430s, I mean, it has nothing to do with the manual. All these 430s, like every one I've driven, starts to feel a little unsure at the front end. You know what I mean? The front seems to run out of stability long before the back does, and that's something I've seen in every 430 I've driven. But it's super fun. Yeah, I mean, it's, don't think I'm not doing the math. Right. Okay, if I buy a 430 for 110 grand, how much can I, what I mean?
Right.
What's the shipping? How much is it? Don't think I'm not doing that math.
I reached out to TAVARISH at the time as well. We took the car down to Florida. He gave it a go.
Dude, this car is beyond amazing. Yeah. So this is the perfect, I think it's the best Ferrari I've ever driven, and it's the best manual car I've ever driven. So you guys have done a great job. I'm not giving you these keys back though. Oof. These are just staying with me.
DuPont Registry wanted to take a look at it while we were in Florida. And since they were, just down the road, we figured we'd swing by there, see what the guys thought about it.
So you got to drive the Scud?
I did.
And what do you think about it?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Literally phenomenal. I mean, I don't have words. It's, I mean, I thought, maybe because it's a conversion, the whole thing, I was like, I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
It's good enough it could have been done by Ferrari. I mean, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
So while we're leaving DuPont Registry, Ed and I were in contact, and he was in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were in Florida. I figured since we were already down there and it was kind of like a stop on the way home, we'd just stop in Atlanta and have Ed take a look at the car.
Hey, I'm Ed from WIKI, and I just got to take a ride in this fantastic gated 430 Scuderia. I actually remembered that car as the first 430 Scud that I ever drove. When I went to work at Lamborghini Atlanta, Motor Cars of Georgia at that time, back in late 2009, it had been repossessed from its first owner along with an LP640 and Verde Ithaca. And so I drove that car for the first time, and I was just, blown away obviously by everything this Scud is, but also, the flappy paddle gearbox, the F1 transmission is always that one thing that you've sort of got to apologize for whenever you've got one of these cars really of that vintage. The same with my LP640. And so even as I own two E-Gear LP640s, I always crave just having that gated manual, driver engagement, just everything about the experience. And so adding that to everything that's already awesome about a Scud was just a perfect thing. So I was impressed with the execution. The thing shifts very smoothly. It's very tight. I love the clutch feel. And so I think once it's all buttoned up, it's going to be a fantastic package.
And then later on, as we're messing around and building the first manual A90 Supra, STRADMAN was on a cross-country adventure, picking up his Elephant at the time, and we kind of got in contact, and he wanted to swing by San Antonio and check out the Scud.
So, you drove the Scud today.
I did drive the
Scud. What did you
today.
think about it?
I want it, and I want to take it home right now. So if you could just give me the title and I can just drive back.
I seem to know the guy. I know a guy.
If you could just hook up a homie, bro.
Yeah,
bro. Hook it up. I need this car.
Yeah,
it is without a doubt the greatest Ferrari I've ever driven. I've driven some cool Ferraris. I've driven a straight pipe loft Ferrari, and that was an amazing car. But this is just so much fun. Just because of the manual transmission. It sounds amazing. So yeah, I need a Scud and I need a manual conversion. So I'll be calling you guys soon.
Once these guys actually got their hands on the car and started putting some content out, little did I know, I'm doing service work at the time, and all of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, can you do my 430? Another phone call, another phone call. And it's like, whoa, what is happening right now? These guys actually want their cars converted. And at that point, the original parts still existed from Ferrari. So I was trying to swallow up everything off the market that I could, converting these cars. And, you know, 1 car went out, 3 cars went out, 5 cars went out. And then, you know, all of a sudden, COVID. Just the whole planet just shuts down. You know, it's like I'm buying these parts. I have no idea what's going on with manufacturing or how to even make stuff at that point. You know, so it's like, oh, crap. These guys still want cars. And now this just turned into a real business. And I have cars sitting at the shop waiting to get converted, and I can't even get parts. And in the meantime, we're still doing service work to keep, you know, the shop afloat. But with this whole COVID thing going on, everybody's panicking and nobody wants to pay for anything other than these guys that want to get their cars converted to a manual. So I'm like, well, shit. Kind of looking around and they don't have any parts. What do I do? Buy one 3D printer, you know, start making things on the computer. But then the problem was, how do you actually physically make these components, right? Well, get the 3D printer, found this stuff that you can make ceramic castings. It's like, I've never poured parts before. What is this? What am I doing? You know, all of a sudden you're finding yourself Googling, what is aluminum? What is stainless steel? What is, you know, cobalt? I don't know. Something. The first pedal we poured was absolute shit. It was from I think it was like a Porsche cylinder head that we broke down. We, you know, just put in this little Amazon cup that we ordered and just melted it. Kind of just doing things in the backyard. You know, one pedal, and it's like, oh shit, okay. Now we need to change a couple things, and now you get another pedal. And fuck, like 5 pours later, we have a part. Like 3 months in, we have physical parts that we made in our backyard that are functional and they work going into cars. So like, I can't even comprehend, you know, that. It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. But it forces your hand, right? It's like, hey, if you can't get something, make it happen. So it's like a blessing in disguise. It's like a catch-22. You can't get it, whatever. You just make it. And before you know it, everybody out there wants a manual 430, F430, 360, right? We're getting swamped with calls and customers wanting to bring their cars in. We're a small shop at the time. We're pouring stuff in our backyard, trying to figure out, you know, the manufacturing stuff and getting rid of service work at the time because it was just too cluttered. And the 430 Scuderia was on the back burner. And we just didn't have enough time to devote to it to get it 100% operational. And obviously, with the car not working 100%, you know, it was a joke. I mean, yeah, it was a joke to me too. I wanted it working 100%, but just didn't have the time. But now that we're able to manufacture parts and we kind of got into that systematically and we learned this process, now we started putting time into the Scud. And now with our in-house technicians getting their hands on it and being able to work on the electronics and the computer end of it, we finally got it working 100%. We're back in the 430 Scuderia that we built about 2.5 years ago. Finally, we were able to get everything sorted out on the electronics side. The ABS, the Manatino, traction control, everything is finally working. Let's go for a drive. We're in sport mode, second gear, third gear. We're gonna jam on the brakes to show that the ABS is functioning correctly. So I'm able to steer, the ABS is pulsating. Trentino to race, and as you can see on the dash, she's in race mode. This is Scud version 2.0. We did put our updated components in the 430 Scuderia. The plastic components that were in the internal ship box. When we first built the car, they were OEM Ferrari, and they lasted about 10,000 miles. They shattered into pieces, and that was kind of the end of it. So we're coming to a stop up here. The CST is still disabled at this point. I'm in third gear. I'm going to drop it into neutral, and I'm going to jam on the brakes. ABS kicks in, and I still have full control of the car. ABS is pulsating on the brakes, so I'm able to maneuver the vehicle without losing control. And that was one of the main things that, you know, wasn't working in the 430 Scuderia when we did the conversion. CST traction control wasn't working. The ABS would just fully lock up. Then you would basically, you know, just go into a complete slide, lose control of the car. But now, after 2.5 years, finally we got everything sorted out. We've learned so much with, you know, just messing around with the electronics, tweaking things here and there, getting support from our other vendors. You know, I want to shout out to AV Engineering and TREV for helping out in this project. It's like putting everybody together. Finally make this thing work. I mean, it's a joy to drive, absolute joy to drive. I mean, this car should have came from the factory with a manual, and they should have just had all the programming sorted out. Then we wouldn't have to go through this, right? But how much fun would it be if, you know, if you didn't do it on your own and learn on your own? So there we go. It's a little slippery out, so we're gonna turn it back into sport. I'm going to show you here that it's going to say CST active here. Traction control is kicking in. It did not really allow me to spin the tires too much. Didn't allow me to, you know, pull sideways either way. So yeah, I'm a happy camper. Finally did it. It's awesome. This is a blast. Now, this is a real business. This is what people want. The manufacturers are steering away from manual cars. You have all this new EV stuff coming out. You know, they're not focused on driver experience whatsoever. And we have become the medium between the car manufacturer and the consumer. And that's what we're here for. To give all these car enthusiasts what they always wanted. Just because of what I dreamt of before as a car enthusiast, now we're giving it back. We've been through a lot of changes. You know, getting rid of service work, focusing strictly on conversions and producing something unique for our customers. You know, people coming and going. Part of the process. Are we stronger? Yeah, we are. Are we going somewhere? You bet your ass. We are. And it doesn't just stop with the 430s, the 360s, the 599s, the 575, the 612, the Lamborghinis. Maybe something cool one day, you know, the Murcielago, the Huracan, the Aventador. Who knows? This is a real business now. And you're not going to stop us. This is EAG. We're coming. We're bigger and stronger. And we're going to give you what you want. The real driver's experience.